This video is an overview of our all-new VS-5RE, one of two designs initially launched in our new forged Enduro line of wheels. We'll cover what's different about the RE wheels versus our Sprint line wheels, why that matters, and why it's probably the best solution for you. We'll cover key features, and we'll compare performance data versus the VS-5RS plus a forged competitor, so you can really see why these wheels are changing the game. I'm Ryan March, this is my E46 M3 race car, also on VS-5REs, and I can't wait to dig into the details of these new wheels. We launched the forged Enduro line as part of our commitment to real performance. The wheel industry keeps pushing for lighter and lighter wheels, but if saving weight is the only priority, then strength can't be. We see strength compromised all the time in pursuit of lower advertised weights, and many cars are honestly ill-equipped as a result. Because many applications need more strength and not less, the Enduro line was optimized for strength and stiffness, and instead sacrifices some weight advantages. It does that with much thicker spokes, a substantially higher load rating, and an even beefier inner lip. The VS-5RE is significantly stronger and stiffer than the VS-5RS counterpart, and even more so than most competitors. Adding the RE version of this wheel to our catalog really gives drivers the option to choose what is the best solution for their specific needs. All right, so let's talk about who these wheels are actually for. The Enduro line is really meant to be the new de facto wheel choice for track day enthusiasts and racers alike. But here's the thing. The reality is that all types of drivers can really benefit from stronger and stiffer wheels. Let's get into the reasons why. Faster drivers put much more stress on wheels than intermediate and novice drivers do. And that stress is magnified through extra sticky tires and higher cornering Gs. If you add a splitter and a wing, that force is directly to get transferred to increased loads on the wheels, just as if the car got heavier. If that car is already heavy to start with, the loads can get really high really quick. Combine all those stresses together and you absolutely need a higher load rating wheel. Just as heavier vehicles and larger trucks need higher load rating tires to handle the increasing weight, motorsport applications also need wheel load ratings that get higher and higher progressively to keep up. So why should most enthusiasts first consider our stronger Enduro wheels as opposed to something lighter from the get-go? Well, think about it for a moment. How much faster is an intermediate driver at an HPD really going to be if they shed a little bit of weight? And what type of damage can they avoid long-term if they go with something stronger? Off-track incidents are a part of HPDs and races. It's an inevitable part of learning and improving man and machine. How many positions are racers giving up when they make contact with another car or go off track in mid-race? Are they actually finishing the race? And how much time are racers giving up on the clock when their wheels are flexing so much that it's changing their alignment significantly? The Enduro line trades a little extra weight for a lot more strength and stiffness. And for most people, that's going to be the better choice. So let's jump into the comparison section of this video, focusing on the cold hard facts that help measure the true performance of a wheel. We'll look at one of our new VS-5RE Enduro wheels, a comparable VS-5RS from our Sprint line, and a very similar wheel design from a competitor. All three of these forged wheels are 18x9 ET46 in a 5x130 bolt pattern, which is a common front Porsche wheel fitment. For this comparison, we laser scanned a competitor's wheel and reverse engineered it to create an accurate 3D model that we can put through the same exact advanced FEA analysis that we run on our own wheels during the development phase. This is the most apples to apples way of comparison for stress, strength, and stiffness. This is important because different companies have different FEA models, and they calculate stresses differently, and they have different safety margins. First, let's take a look at the weight of all three of these forged wheels. We've got the VS-5RS at 17.8 pounds. We have the VS-5RE from our Enduro line at 20.6 pounds. And we have the competitor's wheel weighing in at 18.5 pounds. As you can see, our Sprint line wheel is the lightest wheel on the table, and the Enduro wheel is naturally the heaviest of the three. If we were only comparing the competitor wheel to the new Enduro wheel, and you ignored load ratings, you might consider that the Enduro wheel is uncompetitively heavy, and that the lighter competitor wheel is superior. But now let's add in their advertised load ratings. The competitor wheel here is labeled at 690 kg, which converts to 1521 pounds. And the Sprint Line wheel here is rated at 1650 pounds. And the Enduro wheel here is rated at 2100 pounds. Now, to most people, it would look like the Sprint Line wheel and the competitor wheel are pretty similar. An extremely important note, though, is that this Porsche application, 18x9 ET46, calls for a 735 kg load rating by JWL standards, which is 1620 pounds, meaning, despite being engraved with the JWL logo, signifying that it's compliant to the standard, the competitor wheel here actually does not meet the minimum load rating requirement that it claims to meet. Now, if we bring the computer simulated stresses into the picture, we can really start to see things that the public cannot see. We run lengthy series of simulations, and one of the final numbers we get is an average stress that's great at summing up strength. If we first compare our own two wheels under the same simulated conditions, the Enduro wheel experiences the lowest stress, as it's easily the strongest of the two. This Sprint Line wheel's average stress is 40% higher. The Enduro wheel's higher load rating allows it to take on considerably more load before it reaches its stress limit, by which point the Sprint Line wheel would have already failed. So now, let's compare our Sprint Line wheel to the competitor's wheel. Surprisingly, even though the advertised load rating is only about 8.5% lower than our Sprint Line wheel, its average stress is about 27% higher. Since we use average stress to determine load ratings, if this was our own wheel, we'd instantly have to drop its load rating to under 1200 pounds to accurately match how the other wheels are rated. Considering this is grossly below minimum load called by the JWL for this specific Porsche application, we'd frankly never release it. Last, let's compare the stresses of our new Enduro wheel in comparison to the competitor. Our load rating is approximately 40% higher than their advertised load rating, and that's quite impressive in itself. However, that still doesn't show the true increase in strength between the two wheels. Because nothing is stopping a brand from incorrectly labeling a wheel with a load rating that's higher than accurate, it's tough to compare one wheel brand to the next. What's shocking is that when you look at an average simulated stress, the competitor's wheel experiences almost 90% more stress in comparison to our Enduro wheels. This significant delta in strength comes down to our superior engineering and FEA modeling that's been validated by third-party real-world testing, and the more accurate safety levels that we adhere to. This results in a product that is frankly in another category, that's nearly twice as strong when calculated using the same tests. Now let's add stiffness into the equation. We do this by modeling how the spokes bend under load, and how much that ultimately changes the angle of the wheel's barrel. That angle represents how much negative camber is lost due to the wheel's face flexing under a specified load. Wheels with low stiffness will flex more and lose more camber and feel less direct through the steering wheel as a direct result. In most performance applications, negative camber is dialed in to maximize grip through a corner and for reducing outer edge tire wear. Some companies will lead you to believe that simply being forged will make a wheel stiffer and flex less than a cast or flow form wheel, but that's far from the truth. First, a cast or flow form wheel uses A356 aluminum, which is inherently stiffer than 6061 T6 aluminum commonly used on forged wheels. Second, it's the execution of a design that matters much more than the material itself. Forged wheels with very shallow spokes are floppy. Adding depth significantly increases stiffness, but depth costs money because it uses a lot more aluminum in the blank, and some blanks are extremely limited because they're off-the-shelf street dies. It also takes up brake clearance, so you have to 3D laser scan a ton of vehicles and model brakes to use that space efficiently. It's exactly what we do here at Apex. Our Sprint wheel is almost 35% stiffer than the competitor's wheel, while the Enduro wheel is almost 70% stiffer. These are staggering numbers that contribute to real performance, yet these stiffness metrics are not transparently conveyed by wheel brands to enthusiasts to take into consideration during the buying process. Here at Apex, we're trying to change that. Whether you are looking for our Sprint line of wheels or our Enduro line, you can see the dramatic difference in spoke depth compared to the competition. It's undeniable. Translated to the real world, the stiffness difference is like losing a half a degree of negative camber, just because one wheel is a lot floppier than the other. Even an intermediate driver at a racetrack can feel the difference of losing a half a degree of negative camber, and you're definitely going to notice the additional outer edge tire wear. To wrap this section up, the VS-5RE from our new Enduro line gives you over 80% more strength and almost 70% more stiffness, with only about a 10% weight increase over the competition. What are you going to choose, and what's actually going to give you more performance in the real world? Remember, real performance is measurable and comparable. At Apex, we believe that enthusiasts like yourself should demand more data and transparency from the industry. Otherwise, the wheels you end up putting on your car are at risk of being purchased based on fashion and aesthetics. Now that we've talked about the strength and stiffness that the VS-5RE has to offer, I want to talk about some of the other nitty-gritty details. Just like all Apex forged wheels, the Enduro wheels here are made from 6061 T6 aluminum from a 10,000-ton press, and they're made from our custom motorsport dies. This is a game changer because a lot of forged wheels out there are cut from generic street dies, and our custom motorsport dies really allow our engineers to take the handcuffs off to fully optimize these wheels in the way that we want for each intended chassis. Next up is the beefy inner and outer lip design that is on these Enduro wheels. We've really put a lot of material, over 1 pound, into those locations to make them as resilient as possible. After all, they act as the first line of defense against potholes, berms, and going off track at the racetrack. The Sprint line had about 30% more material than our outgoing traditional lip. That was a huge step forward, but when it comes to this Enduro wheel, we've actually added over 50% more material. We've talked about how we've put a lot of material into certain strategic locations. We've also made a conscious effort to remove some material to mitigate some of that weight. This is happening in several different key areas of the wheel. First and foremost, what sticks out to you when you look at the face of the wheel is the aggressive side milling. This is very similar to the aggressive side milling that you're going to find on our Sprint line wheels. We take a ton of material out of the sides of the spokes that's really unnecessary. And if you take a look at other forged wheels in the marketplace, it may seem like side milling is a reoccurring theme. However, not all side milling is created equal. A lot of times companies will do a little tracer, or they'll even add material to the backside of the spoke to give the illusion that they're taking material away. In this case, we've really taken a lot of material out of that location to make a big difference. Next up is going to be the machine work in between the spoke here on the front of the lip. That's actually unique machining to the Enduro line. You're not going to find that on our Sprint line, so it's one of those indicators that you have an Enduro wheel in front of you for sure. Next, we decided to not paint the barrels on these wheels. It's hard to see with the tire mounted here, but we're going to roll some B-roll for you so you can check it out. There's a lot of surface area that we're talking about, and you'd be surprised how much that weight adds up. Towards the center of the wheel is the last spot where we really tried to mitigate some weight. The Enduro wheel is all about function and performance. And for track cars and race cars, you don't need center caps. So we removed the full center cap support. That's a lot of material that didn't need to be there. If you guys like to install center caps, whether it's the Apex cap or an OEM type cap, then the Sprint line is going to be better suited for you. These VS-5REs boast fantastic brake clearance, very similar to our Sprint line. Both spoke construction and barrel construction really supports that. We bring cars in, we do 3D brake scanning, and that really allows our engineers to optimize both spoke and barrel to clear as many brakes as possible. So whether you have an aftermarket kit or large OEM carbon ceramics, these wheels are going to do the job for you. The last feature that I want to call attention to is the knurled bead seat along the barrel. This really prevents the tire from slipping under heavy acceleration and, even more importantly, under heavy braking. It's important to note that we do not paint over our knurling. This keeps it as effective and sharp as possible. A lot of forged companies are offering the knurling as well, but if you really look at them, they're painted, and when you paint that surface, it really fills up those grooves and makes it less effective. Not all knurling is created equal. To wrap it up, as part of our commitment to real performance, we released the VS-5RE to truly deliver on strength and stiffness at an attainable price point. The VS-5RE's focus on strength is designed for drivers who really stress their wheels, and they understand that every part of the car is a consumable item when you push it to its limits. Its focus on increased stiffness for drivers who appreciate how stiffer bushings and solid mounts on a car will translate to sharper and a more direct feel. Now, you can't design one wheel for all types of enthusiasts in different use cases. If you want the lightest possible wheel, then you should get the VS-5RS from our Sprint line. If you want the stiffer, more robust, stronger version in our VS-5RE, then definitely go for our Enduro line. If you want to learn more about these VS-5RE wheels, go over to our website, apexwheels.com, and check out the specifications table. It's going to offer up weights and other juicy details that you'd definitely be interested in. I'm Ryan March. I appreciate you guys watching today. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and I really hope to see you guys out at a racetrack near me with your Enduro wheels.